Disclaimer: I am not to be held responsible for any damage you might cause to your engines or equipment. DLNW-664 Productions. DLNW-664 Productions presents Rail Fanning. Historic railroading. And model railroading. Please sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. DLNW 664 Productions here, and today I am going to be reviewing this Lackawanna H-24-66 by Williams by Bachmann. But before I get into the model, I'm going to give you a brief history of the H-24-66s. The H-24-66 was built by Fairbanks Morse between 1953 and 1957, with a total of 127 being produced. The Trainmasters rode on C-C Baldwin-style Commonwealth trucks. They were 66 feet long and weighed 375,000 pounds. Their prime movers were 12-cylinder, two-stroke opposed piston diesel engines of Fairbanks Morse's own design. Now, the difference between the opposed piston style engines that Fairbanks Morse used and the conventional style engines with the EMD motors and the GEs and Alcos for this time frame, Baldwin was out of the picture. They had a V-type, which is where the pistons were in a V shape. The opposed piston had one piston facing up with a crankshaft on the top, and one piston facing down with the crankshaft on the bottom. These engines, although mainly proven in military ships during World War II, these engines required a little bit of modification to fit inside a locomotive, believe it or not. The engines were okay under railroad usage. Rated at 2,400 horsepower, they were significantly higher than other engines of that time, which was what FM was going for when they called this thing Trainmaster. These things could really pull. I believe it took two of them to pull what about three of the other guys' engines could do. So, significantly more powerful. The downfall of these engines was their opposed pistons. To get to the bottom set of cylinders when something wore out, they would have to remove the top crankshaft and piston, which always made it a pain in the butt. Which is why the shop crews usually left these things for if they had to do it. Otherwise, they would get the EMDs and GEs and Alcos out on the road. Now, a little history on the Lackawanna's units. The Lackawanna had ordered 12 units numbered 850 through 861. The model I have here is none of those, but modeled after Lionel's take on a Lackawanna Trainmaster. It is numbered 2321. Which was what Lionel numbered their post-war 2321, which was a Trainmaster painted up in the Lackawanna scheme. They made maroon roofs and gray roofs of the post-war one, and although this is a Williams engine, it looks pretty similar. It has the maroon roof. I believe all of the Lackawannas had black roofs, the real ones, but I'm not complaining. Now, let's get into this thing in more detail. This engine has quickly become one of my favorite engines. It's a very nice engine. For its size, it actually fits around 036 curves, and I believe it might fit around 031. The way these trucks swing out, they swing out quite far. It has 2 pickup rollers and 4 geared axles, with 2 of which have traction tires. Here, and here, here, and here. This thing has quickly become one of my favorite engines. I use it for quite a few things. My other engine that I had was a Chessie GP38. Again, I got it out of a starter set, but it pulled its fair share. Unfortunately, I'm pretty sure I ran too long of trains behind it, and I'm pretty sure I broke the traction tires. That or they're expanded to the point where they are useless. This, I could pull those same 20-core trains that I've been pulling behind that GP38 using half the electricity. It's crazy how much power these things have. Now, Fairbanks Morse has quickly become one of my favorite locomotive builders. I don't know if it's something with their design or just their story in general, but they're very unique. I really like it. Now, the truck swing on this isn't exactly prototypical, being that that's a little wide, but it's a very nice unit nonetheless. The front 2 and rear 2 axles are geared, whereas the inner axles are dummy and blind, which is what allows this thing to get around those crazy sharp curves. Another thing I'm also a fan of is that I really like the Fairbanks Morse logo. But all in all, I believe Williams did a very good job on this. Even though it's not exactly scale, and it's not exactly prototypical in coloring, I really enjoy this engine. It's a lot of fun, and it pulls a lot. Now these couplers, they're actually made of metal. The entire frame, basically anything black that you could see on this locomotive, is metal. Now, let's see what makes this thing work. Alright, on the outside this looks like a 1950s, 60s era engine made by Lionel. In this case it's made by Williams though, but that's what it's designed after. On the inside, all 21st century. 2 flywheel motors. This thing, no wonder it puts out so much power. It's really powerful. Now, the screws to remove are in the front and the back. Do not remove the screws to the speaker or the sound directional, the electronics. Do not remove the screws to those. I made the mistake of removing the screws to the speaker, and it took a little while to get it back together. But on the inside, this engine is powered by 2 flywheel motors. It's got directional, I think it's got directional lighting. We'll find out. But it's a very nice engine. Really nice on the inside. Plenty of room if you want to install TMCC or Legacy in this thing. Early in this video, I was not able to show off some of the detail on this locomotive because I was holding it. Now, now that I am not holding it, I'm going to show some of the detail more closely. Now, this thing has plastic vents, however, they do have holes, so if you wanted to install a fan inside to make it look slightly more prototypical, yes, you could do that. The horns do, well, the real Trainmaster's horns were quite similar to this. One over here, and one over there. Now, the opposite side of this unit looks exactly like this side. These vents are molded in and are not opened, molded in and not opened. All along the top it's molded in and not opened. This is molded in and not opened. But other than that, these trucks I believed are stamped metal, which gives them a sturdy and heavy weight. Now, some Trainmasters will have one light. This one has two, which is actually prototypical for the Delaware Lock-On and Western. They had two lights on their Trainmasters. Now, let's turn this thing on and hear what sounds it has. Alright, so this thing has only a bell and a horn. There is no diesel sounds, but for a Williams engine, you're lucky to get sound. These things aren't exactly high quality like Lionel's or MTH's. I'm pretty sure nothing really stands up to Atlas and O scale besides the brass stuff. But this engine does actually have sound for being a Williams engine. So here's the horn. It only does that. Now, it's pretty loud, and even by turning the throttle up and down, it doesn't do a thing. Here's the bell. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that is modeled after a steel bell. I'm not sure if the real things had steel bells, brass, or copper or anything like that, but at least they didn't put an E-bell on this thing, I could say that. Well, let's hook some cars up behind this thing and drive it around track. Went over a bad patch, I guess. There we go. There's not much you can do on an oval of track, but for now this works. I don't have any Lackawanna cabooses, so I'm running a C&O caboose behind this thing. Not exactly prototypical, but it works because it's a caboose. So, cut me some slack there. I should be kit bashing or looking around for I'll probably wind up kit bashing or doing something to get a Lackawanna caboose that I like. If any of you are familiar with Steamtown's 889 caboose, I will probably be kit bashing that because I believe that is 1952 construction, so that could have run behind one of these and it wouldn't look wrong. Now I'm going to be doing that in scale because why not? And other than that, this thing, it'd be better on something a little wider. It'd look more realistic instead of me being able to stick my finger between the outer rail and the engine. It's a pretty big gap, but I'm really not concerned. I'll get back to running trains. which one do you guys on YouTube prefer? Long hood Fords or short hood Fords? Alright, that's about it. If you would like to get yourself one of these engines, I believe the pricing is around $200 for an engine. You get what you pay for. These engines aren't exactly detailed, and the sound isn't exactly realistic, but the money you get out of it is in the motors. These motors are powerful. My favorite thing about this engine has got to be the raw power of this thing. So for $200 you really can't beat 20-car long trains with one engine. I'm sure it could pull more than 20 cars. I haven't tested it yet, but the day that I get more than 20 cars and I could pull them behind this thing, I'll be sure to make a video of it, so stay tuned for that. Well, this is DLMW 664 Productions, signing off.